me get that far. Share. All right, can everyone see my screen now? All right, good. Excellent. Finally, we can get started. So, what I'll be talking to today is mainly about how desktop on demand works in Cosmos. So at LUNARC, and also to a very limited extent at PDC, when logged into a remote desktop with ThinLink, you have the desktop on demand service, which provides an interactive environment to schedule jobs with Slurm without the typical shell script. It uses the graphical application launcher, or GFX launcher, which was developed in-house by our department head at LUNARC. And that allows you to submit the GUI application itself to run on the compute node. And that allows you to run GUI applications more intensively than you would be able to on a login node and without tying up other users. We'll be talking a little bit more about the GFX launcher than the desktop on demand, because the desktop on demand is just sort of the underlying engine. The interface that you'll actually see is the GFX launcher. Minimize this for a little bit. So both Matlab and both Matlab and R in this course have interactive development environments that are available through desktop on demand. And the way you find these applications is up here under the applications tab. So you open this, skip this favorites column. If you're tempted to go to the terminal that's in favorites, be aware that that's the one that's on the login node. There are other terminals that you can open that run on compute nodes, and these are under applications general. And there's also one specifically for running graphic applications called the graphics terminal. This one uses X forwarding, so it's a little on the slower side, but it can handle more intensive graphics than the CPU terminal, and these GPU terminals here require prior reservations. But anyway, since you're all interested in R, let's go ahead and start the R application. So just scroll down here, applications R, and I'm going to click the Rstudio on the CPU because we typically tend to favor these CPU applications because they start on the CPU nodes, which we have a lot more of. Now, of course, you can always use these other ones. These don't require, these typically run on Intel nodes that have a bit more graphics support than the AMD nodes. But there are fewer of them. They're just more suitable for graphics, for some sort of moderate level graphical applications. But for this, I'm just going to use the CPU node so that it starts quicker. So the first thing you notice when I click this is that it opens this little window here. This is the GFX launcher pop-up window. And what you see here is that you can set the wall time. That's the total amount of time that the GUI will be open. For the requirements, the defaults are usually chosen to be pretty good for most applications. But if you need more, you can click this little gear, and that will open this extra resource specification window. Here you can give your job a name. You can increase the number of tasks per node. Let's just say 2. You can, if you select memory, the default value is the typical memory of a, well, it's the amount of memory per core when all of the cores have an equal distribution of memory. You can force a node to take more memory than it's normally allocated. However, you will still have to pay for any other nodes that have to be held idle so that your node can borrow memory from them. So if you use 2 nodes worth of memory, even if it's all on one node for something like a multi-threaded application, or for an application that relies on threading rather than parallelism across nodes, then you're still paying for 2 nodes because you've taken 2 of them offline. It's just that all of the work is being done on one, so that all the memory can stay together. You can also force it to use a full node. So that this is essentially the same as in a Slurm script setting the -- exclusive option. So I'll just bump that back up to 2 tasks per node. And if you have a reservation, you can check that reservation, and you can go here, and normally there is a drop down menu that will oops. Normally this drop down menu will actually have the options that you're available to select. I don't know why it's not showing that right now. But anyway. Well, the other thing that you can use is you can go over here to this project drop down. This is where you have the projects that you're a part of. Actually, the one that I think I'm supposed to be using for this course is this one. For other programs, you may have an extra options box that shows up down here, and if you click it, it will give you the option to, for instance, select additional modules to load that don't load automatically with this particular program. We typically see that for something like Jupyter Lab for Python. Although we advise people not to use that unless they absolutely have to, because the process of selecting the extra modules can lose you the modules that are actually supposed to be loaded with the module that you're using. So anyway, now if I with everything set up, change this back to 60. But if everything is set up correctly, then you just click start. Oops. Let's see. So if it starts and then immediately says says it failed, that means there's something that you chose wrong in your resource specifications, or you chose the wrong reservation, or something to that effect. I'm going to reduce that back down to 1. Just in case. Check that. And I'm going to set that back to 1 task per node. See if this starts. And there it goes. So now you have, so now Rstudio is open. And what you'll see here is that this window remains open and it tracks your progress. So you really do not want to close this window, because not only because it shows your progress bar, but because if you do close it, the entire application also goes away. So I will start it up again. I'm going to pick the other Rstudio this time, see if there are any, see what else different. So here you can see that the resource is different. This is again, this uses the Intel partition that has some extra graphics capabilities. It has a graphics partition built in. So then I will leave it at that and click start again. Now, if you have more resources, or if you select longer wall time, this may stay in the queuing session for a bit longer. And if you want to check your progress, you can always go to this more and check the you can check the output in the log, so that you can see what the status is. Because if it's not loading and you're trying to figure out why it's not loading, this is where you would want to click. So more and then log. And also if you want to see the Slurm script that is associated with running this, for instance, just to see what kind of settings you might want to borrow for a script that you want to then to later run non-interactively, you can go over here to the script and look at some of the settings. So here, the account, you can see that the account was set to LU test, which is the default that I as an admin typically use. SBatch -P GPU A40i. This is the partition. This specifies this particular Intel GPU partition. The output file, this is where it generates the outputs of logs. This is the number of nodes, the number of tasks per node, the wall time, which I left at the default 30 minutes, and which programmed or in the name of the job. So one thing to note about the difference between this partition and the CPU version is that the CPU version here, that has a wall time limit of 7 days. The GPU version that I have running right this second, that has a wall time limit of 2 days. Or at least that it was that limit the last time I checked. So anyway, I will minimize this, but not close it. Because again, if you close that, the application itself also. Any questions so far? Okay. All right, so when should you use the desktop on demand? This is most appropriate for interactive work requiring small to medium amounts of computing resources. I would not recommend using this for an application that you plan to run for a full 7 days. Even though the CPU terminals, or even though the CPU versions of these applications generally will allow you to run for 7 days, you don't really want to cut it that close because because your thin link session itself expires after 7 days of inactivity. Now there are certain GUI applications. I'm not sure about R because that's not a language that I'm super familiar with. I'm mainly doing Python and Matlab myself. But if you have a job in R that you can submit to if Rstudio allows you to submit to Slurm in a similar way to, for instance, the way that Matlab allows you to submit a job through its own scheduler plugin, then jobs that are submitted to batch are not necessarily limited by the resources that are used for the GUI itself. So if you have like for instance, the Matlab GUI, if you start the Matlab GUI with a wall time of 2 hours, but inside you you submit a job to batch that is 3 days, the batch job will not necessarily be interrupted if the GUI used to submit it is closed or times out. I'm not sure if R has the same capabilities. I imagine that there is a way to do it, but you guys might actually know better than I do. I've already gone through where the applications are located, assuming you are on the GNOME Classic desktop. So they're under applications. And if for any reason these GUIs or these interactive, if for any reason these interactive options are disabled, it is sometimes possible to go to a CPU terminal or a GPU terminal and start. I'm going to go to, going to be a little bit daring and go to this terminal. So if it, as a last resort, you can also go to the terminal. And even though this is on a login shell, you can then do interactive. Let's see, it's, correct me if I'm wrong, it's a test. Going to have to look up what the interactive instructions are again, but they're in the I know there is a way to do it, and it's they're the instructions for instance, PDC are here on this this website. I think it's in the, no, it's not this one. It's
I think the option is just time, not wall time.
yeah, sorry.
It should work.
1 dash or 2, I think.
2.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, it's because I haven't, it's because I didn't do X forwarding. So I think I picked the wrong terminal for this, but anyway. There is a way to start an interactive job on the front end terminal, and then, but then you have to see SSH into that terminal. I almost never use that approach because the applications menu is so much easier to access. Let's go back to the on-demand. That's the on-demand. So we already covered that. We already covered the menu. We did note that the terminal that's here under favorites is the one that's on the front end. It's similar on Darnell if you can get onto the ThinLink. If you can get on with ThinLink, which is a very big if, because there's only 30 licenses available right now. I told in the I was told this morning that they are going to be that they are looking to buy more licenses. So hopefully this will not be so limited in the future. Is there anything else we haven't covered? All right, I think we've covered all of the main points of the main aspects of running the applications through the on-demand system. So let's go ahead and get back to